This is George Dionne with Metal Express Radio, and I'm here with Jim Peterik of Pride of Lions, Ides of March, Survivor, World Stage. The list goes on and on. How you doing, Jim?
I am doing well. Thank you, George.
Awesome. I'm very happy to be talking to you today. I've been a big Survivor fan and a fan of Pride of Lions for quite some time, too.
Oh, you're the one.
Yeah, I'm the one.
That's cool, man. And it's good to talk to you.
Pride of Lions' sixth album is about to be released, Lionheart, on October 9th. Let's talk a little bit about a couple of the songs. Let's talk about kind of what you were thinking when you wrote the opening track, Lionheart.
This is a pretty unique time of the world, and we're all struggling. And this album is not heavy with messages, and I don't really talk about COVID and masks and stuff like that. But this is really about the homeless and feeding the homeless. And this is a universal problem that, has nothing to do with the COVID and all we're going through. It's a universal problem. And it's the people that step up to the plate, because maybe they're a little better off and they're thankful for it and they want to reach out and help the homeless and help people in need. And those are the lion-hearted people. So it's pretty simple as that. It's kind of a cry to arms for those people to get together and help the less fortunate. That's
awesome. I actually didn't interpret that way at all, but I like it.
Cool.
How about Carry Me Back?
Well, that's pure pop for now, people. It's not a deep message. It's kind of nostalgic. It's a man and a woman, whether they're still together or he's thinking back on a prior relationship. Carry me back to the innocence of those days, and the melody that goes with it. I mean, it could have been on Survivor's, one of our Vital Signs tracks or something like that. I mean, I like the pop side of rock a lot of times. I like to go a bit heavier here and there, but when we got Jimmy Jamison in as singer, went from the Dave Bickler kind of tougher kind of poor man's son, and I really enjoyed that era as well. And when after he left the band, we got the great late Jimmy Jamison, and I started writing for that voice and that personality, where he could sing "The Search Is Over" and "High on You" and all these beautiful ballads and up-tempo melodic rock songs. I Can't Hold Back. Just that's probably my favorite track of all of the Survivor tracks. So that's kind of right for the voice and the personality. And Toby is that meld. I'm so fortunate when back in what year was it, 2002, I ran into him at an Ides of March show, and he came up to me and introduced himself, and brought him over to the house a couple of weeks later, and I just wanted to hear his voice on the mic, and behind that mic I heard flavors of Jameson and Tommy Shaw and Dennis DeYoung, all these amazing voices in one voice, and I said, "You're in." And a couple of weeks later, Serafino and Mario flew in from England, from Italy, to hear him sing live, and we rented a studio, and he sang for the Italians live, and they couldn't believe how young he was. At the time, he was like 24, but he looked like 19. And Mario and Serafino kept saying, "You're just a baby. You're a baby." But a baby with a big voice, and his voice just seems to get stronger with every album.
Indeed. And speaking of the big ballads, you got Unfinished Heart on this album.
Right. Well, there's always got to be a man against the world, or they all aspire to be man against the world. That's my high water mark for the serious power ballad, and that's probably one that I always try to reach that pinnacle. And Unfinished Heart does a really, really nice job, and I think Toby really, really delivers it.
I thought on Rock and Roll Boomtown, I thought that had sort of a Broadway showy feel to it. Is that kind of like Dennis DeYoung influence because you worked on his last album?
Well, no, because I wrote this like 100 years ago.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, I was just putting together Survivor, and I was presenting songs to the band, and we actually worked out a real crude version of Rock and Roll Boomtown. But when Ron Nevison came in to hear our material for that first album, he was lukewarm about it. He said, "Yeah, we might cut it." Well, we never did, and it laid on a shelf until this year, and it was a perfect time to bring it out. And it's just another one of those nostalgic songs where, you know, I was around in L.A. when it was booming. It was a boom town in 1970 when the Ides of March had our hit record called Vehicle. And we went out there and we did the Dick Clark show and the Mama Cass show and the Whiskey A Go-Go with Stephen Stills. And we were living the dream. And things were just popping. But, you know, about 8 years later, LA's just started to turn into kind of a funky place.
Yeah.
And a lot of rusty cars, a lot of bums on the street. And so this was a kind of a song about the really salad days of Hollywood.
Could possibly be a little bit reflective of the music industry here in the U.S., too.
Oh, absolutely. It reflects that. And there's a lot of things people can read into this, but the prototype was definitely Hollywood.
You started Pride of Lions 17 years ago. Did you originally see this project as long-term or just a couple of albums and then on to the next project?
Well, you know, it's like with the Ides of March, you know, of course, we were very, very young. I was 15 when we had our first hit record. You never think past that and how much fun you're having and how the girls are looking at you again. Not too much different than Pride of Lions. We're a little bit older now, but I thought there was legs here. I really did. I didn't know it would last 17 years. And a lot of that has to do with the faith of Frontiers, Serafino. It's all about the label. And if you don't have that guy or girl or whoever behind you, you can make all the music you want, but no one's going to hear it. So I'm really thankful for my whole team. And if you notice, George, the band has remained constant through all 7 albums, counting the live album.
Yep. The
same musicians, give or take, you know, in a couple songs, like on this album, Lionheart, my son Colin, wonderful player, 31-year-old drummer, guitar player, keyboard player, songwriter, studio owner. I'm not too proud of him at all, you know, but I can brag about him. Anyway, he plays drums on Lionheart because I don't believe Eddie was available that week. And then we had his bass player, Kevin, play bass. But otherwise, it's the lineup. You know, it's Eddie Breckenfeld on drums, Mike Aquino on guitar, Clem Hayes on bass, you know, our keyboard player, Christian Cullen. It's been stable, all those albums.
Does everyone contribute to this, or is it mainly you and Toby, and then the band gets involved?
Great question. You know, everybody has their input. Everybody adds their personality to the music. I really have a pretty formed idea of what the song is going to be like. But then Eddie will come up with a totally different drum part, and I love it. Or, you know, Christian will do some keyboards that change the whole sound of the song. Toby, he does Toby. He Tobyizes it, you know. I teach him the melody, and then, you know, he'll change it here and there. But he's a singer. You know, he's not a writer. He doesn't pretend to be a songwriter. He'll make a few suggestions, but it's really my show with all these wonderful musicians giving me input.
Last year, you released your second album under the World Stage moniker, Winds of Change. You have many different vocalists on this album. Is an album like that tough to put together versus a Pride of Lions project since there's so many people involved?
Oh, my God. Yeah, I'll start from a week ago when Serafino emailed me and said, "Maestro, time for another Pride of Lions album." And I said, "Whoa, not so fast." Italian breath. I said, that is a very difficult, you know, proposition. And he wanted it like next year, you know, and I go, I got to think about that. I mean, the logistical nightmares I love doing it, but it takes a while to wrangle all those personalities and all those schedules. Hopefully, you know, hopefully we'll be back on the road, and it will be tough to get these people.
Right.
But last year, it was actually a 2019, there wasn't a problem with COVID. And I was flying in Mike Reno and flying in different people and working in Nashville with, so many artists that lived around there. And it all came together like magic. But times are a little different. So I said, Serafino, I really want to do another world stage, but you got to give me a couple of years to put it all together and get the mojo back,
So he wants you to do another one already.
Yeah. I'm telling you, these guys are my biggest fans, and I love them, and they're very loyal, as I am loyal to them. And if it wasn't for Frontiers, we wouldn't have a lot of the great melodic rock and metal that we have now.
I think you pretty much helped jumpstart the label there in the beginning. I remember, if I remember correctly, Pride of Lions was probably one of their early releases.
It was, and they've been loyal to us and vice versa. We've had other offers, and I go, no, this is my home. They treat me right, and I want to deliver for them.
So while we're talking about record labels, I'll ask you about Survivor's old record label, Scotti Brothers, because I had talked to Stan Bush years ago, and he said, they didn't really know he was there. He had an album deal with him, he did music with him, but they didn't really, they kind of focused more on you guys.
Well, yeah, and Stan's great, and he did get a short shrift, but, I can't argue with Tony Scotti and Ben Scotti. Of course, you don't argue with those guys anyway. But seriously, and our label manager, it's just great people. They're typical, wannabe Italian mafiosa guys, but they're not. They're actually very artistic bent, and they really took care of the band. And they would show up, when we were playing big gigs or accepting a platinum award, and they would be in the front row, and we would party afterwards. And where do you find that kind of loyalty anymore? Labels are disappearing. Very, very lucky. They did all those albums with us. Yep. 8 albums, I believe, with the greatest hits, and never wavered. And they changed distribution from Atlantic to Epic, and never even considered dropping the band. We had a couple stiff albums. The first album with the girl on the cover that everyone thought was Kim Basinger, and it wasn't. But she was cute, and us in front of the flaming hulk of the plane wreck.
Yeah.
And that was a very good album. But Somewhere in America got a little bit of action, not much. Second album got quite a bit more when we switched rhythm sections to Mark Gerbet and Stephen Ellis. But that album, we got some stuff on Summer Nights, Poor Man's Son. But you know what? One thing built on another. And when Sylvester Stallone called me out of the blue one day, left an answering machine message. He said, "Yo, Jim, I like that answering machine. Give me a call, Sylvester Stallone." I'm going, "Yeah, right. Sure." I finally called him back. And he says, I was listening to that album. Poor Man's Son, Tony Scotti played me, you guys, and said, you should consider this band for your next movie. Well, they had asked Queen to do another one, Bites the Dust, to use that song, and they said no. So Tony, Stallone picked up the phone and called me and said, you guys got the sound I want. I'm going to send you the rough cut of the movie, and I want you to write me a song that'll outlive you and me. I said, no problem, Sly. And Frankie and I got together 2 days later with a Betamax Pro and just watched the action. And man, I had my guitar on my neck, and I just started digga, and bap, 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 bap. The thing just unfolded like magic, and we cut it 2 days later at Chicago Recording Company. And man, went to Stallone, and he said, "You guys really did it. That is going to outlive you and me." And it was just a magic time for me and the band. It was just a dream come true.
So he called you back for Rocky IV for Burning Heart, which was just as good as a song.
Well, thank you. It's the Avis of Rocky songs. It tries harder.
Yeah.
But it's a good song. Frankie and I were on the road with Survivor when we got the call, and Stallone actually sent us the script to Rocky IV, and we read it, and Frankie and I, we took our Wurlitzer and put it in a suite and wrote the song. And at a break, we went into Chicago and a local studio and brought JMO in, and we cut the thing. And man, it's still got the power. I'm still very proud of every line of that song. There's no weak lines in Burning Heart.
Right, and it's probably the most memorable Rocky movie amongst the fans as well.
That's true. It'll live forever, man. I'm very grateful.
Did he, when he was redoing the Rocky movies under the Creed moniker, did he ever call you or anything like that?
Not once.
No?
No, I mean, called to chat. I ran into him a few times at a TV show.
Yeah.
And we hugged and we talked. Hey, Sly, why don't you ask us to... it's out of my control anymore. I got nothing to say about it. Going with that rap stuff. And okay, I got it. I get it. But I keep hoping,
Right, exactly. There'll be another one. There'll be another opportunity. They're coming up on the third one. That's where you guys started.
All right, 3 is 3. All right, got it. I'll tell them George sent me.
Do you do that?
All right.
So I think Survivor's landmark album was, they say Eye of the Tiger, but I think it was Vital Signs, and I think a lot of fans would agree 84 is Vital Signs. What do you remember about going in and making that album? That was the first with Jimmy on vocal.
Yeah, magic album, man. I got nothing but good memories of that album. We cut the basic tracks at the record plant on 3rd Street in L.A., and everything just went smooth. We played all the new stuff for Ron Nevison at SIR, and then went in the studio, and it was like butter. And we were just like packing up the gear, and Frankie was fucking around on the electric guitar. He hadn't put away his amp yet. And starts playing this really cool arpeggiated lick, And I go, what's that? He says, I'm just farting around, I said, well, keep farting around. And I went to the grand piano, and I started layering these chords underneath it. And Nevison comes in and says, what's that? And I said, we're just jamming, He said, no, you're not jamming. You're writing another song. We got to stay an extra 2 days. And, of course, that song became I Can't Hold Back. And literally, we wrote it that day. I finished the lyrics in the morning while I was jogging around Venice Beach. We went into the record plant, and we cut that track. And it was magic. We knew we had caught lightning in a bottle with I Can't Hold Back. And whether it was going to be our biggest song, it was a credibility builder. And coming out of the chute with that song, people started taking us serious and like, well, these guys, they're really good. And they're beyond, they don't just do Rocky music. This is cool. This is fresh,
Right.
And it proved so much, about what we could do. We finished the album at the record plant in Sausalito, and we all stayed in this mansion, which was a hell house. It was crazy. I don't know how we finished that album, but we did, and it's still my favorite album that we made. 8 cuts, but no chaff.
I agree. Absolutely agree. One of my favorites. Do you still talk with Frankie or Dave on a friendly basis or anything?
I don't talk to Frankie. I saw him kind of recently, and it was fairly comfortable. It wasn't weird or awkward.
I read in 2019 you had 193 guitars. Has that number increased?
It has, and I'm glad Karen's not in the room right now, my wife. She doesn't know about 25 of them, but anyway. So right now I have 235 guitars, and I know that for a fact because I had my webmaster come in. He's one of these guys that knows how to catalog things, and he took photos of every single guitar in my whole catalog and did a whole history on each guitar. And for the first time, they're really in order, and they're all, in these, slots in my house, and they're all shined up, and really proud of this collection. And no designs to sell it at any time. When I finally leave this great place called the world, they'll go to my son, who's an immensely talented musician, studio owner, Jim Peterik,
yep.
and he knows all the details, of every guitar, so no one's going to take advantage of him.
You've definitely played all 235 guitars?
I have. Until recently, they were all out in my home, and a lot of them still will be, but probably only about 100, not 200.
Just 100.
And but they all inspire something different, George. I'll grab a Les Paul and put it in a Marshall, and I'll be writing a rocker. I'll be writing something like, You're Not a Prisoner on this album. But I have the pristine sounds of like Stratocasters that I put through a rolling jazz chorus with the flange, and I'll be writing a very beautiful song, So yeah, they all inspire something different, as you know, because you're a player as well.
Right. Do you have your first guitar?
I do. I'm so
You
happy.
do? All right.
Oh man, I was 11 years old. I just turned 11, and my dad surprised me at Christmas with a Wandre. The brand name was Noble, Noble, but that was just a distributor here in Chicago.
Yeah.
It was really a Wandre, Wandre, one of those hot checks above it. It was this Wandre Paoli, this eccentric guitar designer from Italy. He also designed motorbikes, okay? I'll show you where his head is at. And a lot of the parts of this guitar are actually old motorcycle parts. And it was all fiberglass, and it had aluminum neck that went all the way through the guitar. And my dad said, it'll never warp. And he was right. It never warped, and it always sounded like shit. But damn it, that neck was straight.
That never warped, that's right.
Never did. But I have pictures of a young Jimmy with his horn-rimmed glasses trying to be Buddy Holly at age 11 with that damn Wandre, man. But I cherish it, and it's on display at my house.
Nice. You got into the protein bar game, too, with Jimmy Bars.
Yeah.
How did that come about?
Very, very strange.
Well, let me tell you how I discovered it first. Actually, let me tell you how I discovered it first.
All right.
I'm in the store and I see the Jimmy Bars, and one of them's called Eye of the Tiger. I'm like, the guys at Survivor are going to be pissed about this.
That's funny. I like that. Well, it's true. I really lucked out, and I did this show for a corporate show for entrepreneurs. And I ran into this guy that ran a company called Jimmy Bars. I'm not the Jimmy of Jimmy Bars. It's Jim Simon.
Ah.
But we started talking, and he said, "I like that song, Eye of the Tiger." I said, let's do a Jimmy Bars Eye of the Tiger bar. One thing led to another, and about 2 years ago, they came out. They're worldwide, and I eat them every day. They're very tasty, and they give you energy. They got a little bit of guarana seed in there to give you a little caffeine jolt,
That's right.
So try them out. I sound like a jingle. Jesus Christ.
No, they're great. They're good. I like them.
Thank you.
I like them. I asked this question, or a similar question, to Rick Springfield. You've written numerous songs and released numerous albums over the last 55 plus years. When all is said and done, pop culture wise, are you satisfied that you're going to be known as the guy that wrote Eye of the Tiger?
Oh, hell yeah. I mean, it could have been Muskrat Love. Nothing wrong with that song, but this is a song, man. This is an anthem. I would love to have a couple more that, I mentioned for.
Yeah.
It'll never, but, those are kind of footnotes, but Tiger will rule the world unless in the next 15 years I come into an amazing opportunity. But I would totally be satisfied with that song. When Drew Barrymore goes to Rolling Stone and says, it's kind of cheesy, but my favorite song is that Eye of the Tiger. Ah, man, I loved it.
Yeah, it's certainly taken over the pop culture, even though I think you had songs that could have sat right next to it.
Well, thank you. And in different ways, so do I. But ballads are never going to be, I've always been famous for marches. Marching bands do Vehicle, marching bands do Eye of the Tiger. I got to write another fucking march.
Right, there you go.
Then I have it made.
Do you have any other projects going on?
I'm writing part 2 of Dennis DeYoung's new album.
Yeah.
Which is the first part was called 26 East. That's the address of his boyhood home, and it's doing very well. And I co-wrote 5 songs on that record. Very proud of that. Dennis literally lives two blocks away from me. He's in a gated community. I'm, where the paupers live. But he will talk to me. But anyway, we had a blast writing that album. But there was too many songs for one album, so Serafino split it in 2. And part 2 will be coming out. Not quite sure. Probably February-ish. And there's 4 more collaborations with Peterik. And he kind of lit a flame, he might even tell you that I lit a flame underneath his ass, because now he's writing his ass off. Before it was kind of like I needed to jumpstart him with a song idea. Now he's kicking ass. But It was a real pleasure writing with him. I'm also now writing with Robert Lamb of Chicago, and it's really going well. Kind of started as a Lamb Peterik project. Maybe a Chicago album, but it's, the ink's not dry.
Yep.
I can say it maybe, though. So I'm fingers crossed, because I love Chicago. I love the band. And it turns out they were a big fan of not Eye of the Tiger as much as Vehicle.
Right.
So, and Robert Lamb is the voice, besides Pete Cetera, who was the high tenor. I mean, Lamb was no slouch. He was doing, so many... only the beginning, the very first song I ever heard by Chicago, When I'm With You, just a really cool sound. And so we've been having a blast working together.
Awesome. It sounds like you got a full plate, even though you can't go out and play live.
Yeah, man, I missed the heck out of that. But you do what you can, and the process of creation is pretty exciting in itself. And the real great day will be when we can play these songs live. And Ides of March are chomping at the bit, and I know Dennis is too. We wrote a song called With All Due Respect. It's also on that same 26 East album. Check it out, George. It's hilarious. The big hook is, with all due respect, you are an asshole. I mean, and we got everybody from Suzanne Dionne to different disc jockeys in town singing You Are an Asshole. And it's just outrageous. There's a video for it. You got to check it out. It's so funny.
I'm definitely going to check it out now.
Cool, man.
Hey, that's all I got for you today. Thanks for speaking with Metal Express Radio.
My pleasure. You know your stuff. It's a pleasure to actually talk to someone who knows my history and knows rock and roll history. So I appreciate that.